Hello, everybody. The quadruple march carries on. That's us into the fifth round with a 4-0 win against Wigan. Very convincing. And very nice to see a lot of players play who aren't getting a lot of minutes at the moment. Wigan, we have a bit of history with it, Wigan, Arsenal. I remember us beating them in the semi-final of the FA Cup for us to get our first trophy in about 11 or 10 years under Wenger. When Per Mertesacker equalised in the last minutes to take it to a penalty shootout. Also, Wigan, I remember, of course, the last game at Highbury, 4-0 Arsenal against Wigan, the last game. And you could see a fan in the crowd for Wigan wearing the commemorative final game of Highbury shirt in the Wigan blue, which was fun to see. So that's cool. But let's start straight away. I mean, first of all, we're going to have a look at we're just going to have a look at the game, have a quicker look at the first 11. And I think the interesting thing as we analyse this and think about it is just which players who we've seen today are going to have some impact in the run-in. Because we are seeing players who are fresher, such as Norgard, such as Eze, such as Madueke, who may well be called upon later on in this season as things really ramp up towards the run-in, and they will be important players. Starting with that starting 11, of interesting things to note, of course, Lewis Skelly starting in midfield. Well, before we hear Calafiore goes out with an injury in the warm-up. You know, one thing I just want to say about these injury warm-ups that we keep having, I swear that happens maybe once or twice a season to teams. That's happened, I think, for the fourth time, and the second time it's happened to Calafiore in a warm-up. So I don't really understand what's going on there. It's either incredibly bad luck, or I don't even know. I mean, I don't understand that. And the thing with the Calafiore injury is we've not really had much information on that. Because of his injury before, he was injured before. The only word we got from Arteta was that it was awkward. He said it's an awkward injury for Calafiore. I didn't know what that means. I'm not going to speculate. So let's just hope Calafiore's going to be okay for future games coming up, because we need him. He's as good as Nkapie's been playing, and he didn't play today, but in recent games, Nkapie will be starting against Spurs. Calafiore adds something really interesting. But anyway, on to this. Saka then comes in. So Saka playing an attacking midfield position. Madueke goes back to left back where Calafiore was. And I think, people have talked about Saka playing in that attacking midfield position before. And it's an interesting one because he's so explosive. And he's got such a good, he's able to curl that ball really nicely into the bottom corners. That's his ability. And in that area, you imagine he could get some space to do that more, because I think teams have caught on to the fact that Saka cuts in, and that always cuts in and hits it with his left. I mean, there's countless goals like that. And teams have adjusted for that. So I think that might be why we're seeing less goals from Saka this season, one of the reasons. So it's interesting to see him in attacking midfield position. Of course, it was just a stop gap between trying to just get the team going, given that last-minute injury to Calafiore. But let's get into the meat of this game. I mean, the meat is Eberechi Eze. This guy, and I said it even after in my full-time reaction after Brentford 1-0 when he was hooked at half-time. I've said it many times before on this channel. I believe he's absolutely key to the run-in, and he's key to shifting our balance of play. He is such a direct player that we are able to... he's one of those players that can turn and feed from deep, and we saw it twice. And he's the key. The thing with him is he's a moments player, and in the run-in and in cup games, we're going to see that big time. We saw it. I said this before. We saw it for Crystal Palace last season, and in the FA Cup when he carried them to victory in many games and carried them to that trophy, and in the Community Shield. Because he's a moments player. Like, he's not going to have an amazingly consistent game, but he has 3 or 4 moments in games which totally change them. And I can see why Arteta's not been confident with him before, because he can give the ball away as many times as he plays a game-changing ball through. That's what Eze's like. But that is why he's key to the rest of the season, because he's very different. He's very different to the rest of our team and the players that we have. So I think he's almost like a wild card you can put in. You don't quite know what you're going to get, but it's certainly not going to be consistent through 90 minutes. But there's the potential for totally game-changing moments. We saw it two stunning balls from deep into Martinelli and Madueke. Fantastic finishes, by the way, for those goals. And Wigan were just, there was a lot of space in behind. You can see the difference between how we play the low and high blocks. And this is sort of a weird, I didn't quite understand what Wigan were doing. Sort of a low block, high line, low, congested, low block. But it just had so much space in behind, and every ball that went over, either in between, was threaded through the middle or over the top. There was countless opportunities for Arsenal, and it was absolutely wonderful. I would have liked to see Gyökeres in that first half with that amount of space. I mean, that's his bread and butter when you watch him again for Sporting last season. So just an incredible play from Eze and those two passes. You can see he's really deep and is able to pass the ball straight through the lines, beats a player, pass it straight through the lines onto an on-running Martinelli and Madueke. Fantastic finishes. I'll just say it again. I know if Martinelli was able to do that against Brentford the other day, we would be taking 3 points. Is that the difference between pressure and looseness? Because you're early in the game in the fourth round, and he slots it beautifully. And I love the Madueke finish. Bottom corner, so nicely guided. Madueke is growing on the fan base big time, and you got to say, Saka's got to. Is there a challenge there for Saka at the moment? That's something we're going to have a look at, because Madueke again, some brilliant skill as well from Madueke on the touchline, and players couldn't deal with him. Apologies, my hair is all over the shop, but we'll just carry on with that. But yeah, I think that was really the key and the big moments, and those are the main talking points for me. But I also want to shout out to Norgard, because he did a similar great ball from deep. He's got the physique of a Xhaka, Norgard. The way he reminds me of Xhaka, the way he sort of scans the pitch and operates. He's an intelligent player. You can see why he was a captain at Brentford and in that midfield. But he's such a nice guy. If you watch the press conference, his recent press conference he's just such a nice guy. He talks about how his grandmother keeps every newspaper cutting of any mention of him in the newspaper, and at the end of the year shows him or something like that. And it just seems so nice. And we're going to need some cover for Zubimendi. Zubimendi is playing. I think he may have played as many minutes as anyone in this team, in this Arsenal team. He's absolutely key to everything. There was an article on BBC Sport this morning saying, is Zubimendi Arsenal's best player? And there's very strong arguments to say he is, and he's absolutely essential. He's pretty much the first on the team sheet at the moment. But there's going to come a time in this run-in, in any of these competitions, that he will need a rest. And Arteta's been reluctant to play Norgard. Today, I don't see why. He was so measured. I understand this is Wigan, but he was very, very measured. He didn't give, I think maybe once or twice gave the ball away poorly, but he's got got an ability to pass in between the lines. He's very... he maybe lacks a bit of pace, but I hope that... this is the other reason why I would have liked to see Miles Lewis-Skelly. What a dream it would have been to see him in midfield for once, which is his favourite position, to see if he could potentially be a Zubimendi cover when needed. But I hope that maybe in a big game, we'll see Norgard there. Let's just see. Shout out to Kepa as well. I thought he didn't have much to do. Thankfully, no corners. That's his problem, I think. But when you compare him to Raya, but two great saves. Joe Taylor, I think it is for Wigan, had a chance volley straight at him, which was very well dealt with. And then Gyökeres comes on in that second half, and Arsenal play a 4-4-2. Gyökeres hitting the post pretty immediately. But at that point, I think Wigan went back to a back four and were a lot more stable. And I think we had sort of taken the foot off the gas a bit. There were a couple of chances, Eze getting a lot of space and driving in and attacking. And I really like to see that from Arsenal. I mean, we were like the Red Arrows. We're like the Red Arrows. When you've got Madueke, Saka, Eze, Jesus, Martinelli sprinting at you like that. Balls over the top. It's interesting to see, but of course, we're not going to see this often. because games aren't going to call for it. But anyway, we'll see who we've got in the next round. I'm just going to double check. So the interesting thing now, looking ahead, is Man City play Newcastle at home, and Newcastle are picking up a bit of a wave form at the moment, which is good at the weekend. Arsenal, I think we've got a midweek. I think before we play Tottenham, we play Wolves midweek on Wednesday, and then we play Spurs on the Sunday. So a couple of players getting a rest, Rice getting a rest. That'll be interesting to see. Let's just double check when the FA Cup draw is, who we could potentially get. Hopefully, if we can get another home tie, that would be wonderful. So, the FA Cup draw will be tomorrow. Let's get another home tie, please. Anyway, job done. Moving on to the next one. Thank you for your support, and subscribe if you want to join me for live watch-alongs, full-time reactions like this, match analysis, and a whole lot more. So, thank you very much.